as you mentioned, I'm from Singapore. So here, the middle class, for the most part, thanks to the prosperity of Singapore, has made up a large percentage of the population. But because of that, it becomes a bit more clear when you see the degradation in like standard of living. If you are just in the middle class and you are not moving up and trying to go into upper class. So I can't say for certain in other countries whether they are experiencing it as quickly as we are here in Singapore, because our demographic is a bit unique. But from my own analysis of what's happening globally in trends, you find that if a person or family is in the middle class, they are suffering a little bit more than uh, anyone is in the upper class. Everything from the amount of tax that you pay being a significantly higher proportion of the income that you can generate compared to someone being in the upper class.
Okay.
So that's just one part of it.
Yeah,
But
so
yeah.
here's the way I see it. Let me know how you think about this. So
Mhm.
the wealthy people, like let's just say Jeff Bezos, he doesn't pay tax on Amazon because Amazon is a business, right? And this
Yeah,
is just the
right.
laws, right? But the middle
Yep.
class is working and taking home an income and paying a
Yes.
tax out of their
Yes.
income. So
Yes.
to oversimplify it, if I owned a portfolio of 100 houses and you increase my tax by 1%, I say, okay, that I wasn't working for that money anyway. The rental money I wasn't even working for. So okay, one more, all right, that's fine. But if you increase the tax on the middle class, it's like,
Yep.
okay, I have to work 1% harder, right?
Yep.
And
That's right.
yeah, exactly. So that's what I'm saying, that it's unfair, right? When the people that are working for money are paying the more taxes than the people that aren't in most cases.
I
That's the way I see it.
I think the more accurate thing, because l- let me see if there's a way to present this in a easy to digest manner. The thing is that uh there's this term called disposable income, I
Mm.
guess.
Yep.
Disposable income, the amount of income that you have left to use as and how you like it. So
Mm.
the higher you are up the food chain, the more disposable income you have, the more you have to give away as tax without actually burdening you as a human being. So a simple example, if I earned a million every month, for example, if I was super affluent, really higher up the food chain, and I made a million every month from my portfolio of investment or businesses, whatever it is. Oh, give me a second. Yeah. If you tax me, if let's say my tax is now 10%, so I'm paying 100,000, I still have $900,000 left to deal with. But
Mm.
if I was only earning, let's say, $1,000 a month, and you take away 10% of my value, and that $1,000 that I earn, let's say I'm 8,000 is a bit too small. So
Or
middle
three
class in
thousand.
Singapore.
3,000. Let's say, just say 3,000.
Okay, yeah, 3,000. Yeah, 3,000. So if I was earning 3,000 and you took away 10% from me, that's a significant amount of my like purchasing income to buy anything, because my disposable income is probably only after my savings and whatever not that I have to pay for my rent.
Mm.
My disposable income will probably be only $600. So if
Yes.
you're taxing $300, you've taken away 50% of my disposable income. But if I was super rich and I had $1 million of disposable income every month, and you took away 10%, heck, even if you took away 20% of that, I'd still have 800K as
Precisely. Yes.
disposable income.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
So
they have a high disposable income, but also the way that they've got the income is different.
yes, correct.
One
So
had to work. Yeah.
it's a bit of mathematics. There's another thing that I think most in general most people don't know about in terms of economics, is that when governments across the world, when they print money, when they inject money into the system to try and like um increase GDP or try to buffer the economy or anything, generally that money always lands in assets first. So if you are not rich enough to own assets, you are always the last to experience any kind of injection the government across the world would pump into, yeah, the economy. So hence, yeah, it's not something to I hate capitalism or I hate rich people. This is just how the system works. It anytime the governments push money into the system, it always goes into the capital markets and into things like property and anything that is like an asset. So you'll see stock markets rise, you'll see property rise, you'll see things like art or whatever not, like all those things you see them appreciate in value. But if you're in the middle, in if let's not talk about the low income, but if you're in the middle income, how many pieces of art can you buy and hang, honestly?
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So
exactly.
it,
And
yeah,
yeah. And inflation, let's just call it what it is. Inflation is a tax. It's a tax that
oh,
is unseen, right? If you want to steal the wealth of an entire population, right? Let's just say that everyone is using gold coins. You'd have to go up to them and physically take the gold coins. But with the fiat
right.
currency system, if you wanted to steal the wealth of them, all you had to do is
Mhm.
print money. Just take it from them that way, right? And then just say, oh, no, we're not inflating it, right? Now, the thing that's scary about the fiat currency system, and I'm a BTC maxi, so I think about this, is
Mhm.
now, do you know how hard it is to take the wealth of every single person in the fiat system? It is as simple as holding down the zero on a computer. I because they're not actually physically printing the notes, right? So they literally could just put in the number. I now have $100,000 trillion, right? And then just
Mm.
hit enter and just take it away. And it takes one person to do that. I don't know what systems they have to stop that, but yeah, I think that
Mm.
inflation's a massive, massive thing that is destroying the middle and lower classes because, as you said so accurately, so correctly, the rich own assets. If inflation happens, they just go, okay, we'll raise the rent. Just raise the rent, right? You know.
So back to that point. It's another thing. If inflation happens, your asset prices inflate as well. So you don't actually experience the inflation. Does that make sense?
Of course. Yeah, it makes
Yeah.
total
So
sense. Yes.
yeah, if I own property, if I own a portfolio of let's say $10 million worth of property, and there's actual general inflation, not to get into the nitty gritty of it because there's different kinds of inflation, but let's say generally everything inflates at 10%. My portfolio also inflated at 10%. So assuming all else equal, that the prices don't shoot any further than 10%. And here's the thing, very often, certain things like property or certain asset classes like certain stocks, they will overshoot whatever that inflation rate was that affects the system. But let's assume nothing happens. Let's
Mm.
assume it's flat. 10% inflation, my property value also increases 10%. But it's a portfolio of properties now that increases 10%. So I don't see anything. It doesn't bother me. And like you said, because my property value increases by 10%, I also have to increase the rent by 10%. I mean, I'm not doing anything wrong. That's just where the market is.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, so it
So I
doesn't change
think
the same. Yeah,
exactly. And I think Michael Saylor talks about this. He uses Apple as a good example of a company in the last 20 years which has been able to raise its prices actually more than
yeah.
inflation. An iPhone,
Oh yeah,
right? A new iPhone has consistently increased its price, right? And
yeah.
that's very strong for a company
You
to
know.
do. Not every company can do that.
Here's the thing. I noticed this recently because I generally don't buy handphones that often. If my handphone works, I quite like it and I keep it, and I don't really want to get a new one because for the most part, there isn't anything that is significantly different anymore. It's not like the latest handphone floats on my hand or something like that. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
It's just the camera. It's a bit faster, more memory, whatever. I don't care. It's not particularly important to me. But then
Mm.
I realized that. Not too long ago, when I got my handphone, like the top of the line handphone, it cost me $500 in Singapore. And back then it was like, wow, $500 like to keep in my pocket, and that could get stolen or anything. And it already felt like this is a bit expensive. Then now I'm seeing like the new iPhones and the new Samsung S25 Ultra costing, depending on the memory size that you get. Like I think the 1 terabyte, is it 1 terabyte?
Yep.
1 gigabyte. Is it 1 gigabyte? Fuck
Terabyte.
me.
It's
I think
terabyte,
one
not
terabyte.
gigabyte. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 1 terabyte. So it's like 1,000 gigabytes.
Yeah.
It costs Singapore $2,100. That
That's
that's
nothing
that's
compared to Apple. Apple's 3,000 now. It's like 3,500 if you want the 17 Pro
yeah.
Max.
you think about it, right? So I go to Malaysia often, and I see their standard of living, and I just take note of like what people get paid. So in a place that's about in a state of Malaysia that's about 50 kilometers away from the capital, Kuala Lumpur,
Mm.
this area called Seremban or Nilai, I was eating at a KFC there, and I saw a poster for hiring. So a manager there is supposed to be comfortable with a starting pay of about 2000 RM. 2000 RM per month is about 600 Singapore dollars.
Mm.
So that means your iPhone is like 6 months of salary for a manager at a fast food restaurant. Now, yes, fast food restaurant, but still, if you not, I'm not talking about a normal person who like works and produces the fries and is a server. It's supposed to be a manager, it's supposed to be somebody in charge of everybody, and that person only earns a starting salary of about $600 per month. SGD in Malaysia.
It really puts it into perspective about how blessed you are to be in a Western country.
I know. It's
Yeah.
as a Singaporean, yeah, we you understand like how much you earn compared to some of these other countries. The thing is that uh the cost of living in Malaysia generally is significantly cheaper. So earning about 600 $700 a month is survivable if you do live in Malaysia.
Mm.
The context being like in Singapore, the cost of living is significantly more expensive. But yeah, the thing is that certain things are not specific just to one country. So that iPhone is going to be sold at about the same price in Malaysia as well.
Mm.
So a Singaporean would be able to afford it, but for a Malaysian, that yeah goes in like put that
Yeah,
into
they would have
context.
to
Six.
go secondhand, or they would just shop Android secondhand. I really think that the phone market, if you look at secondhand phones, you can find some really great options. But I'm a massive nerd about this. I want to run
Nice.
something by you. So my parents grew up in the boomer generation, and they have, they would have be able to buy their own house, right, to raise me, and they didn't have high paying jobs, right? They would just work, regular
Yes.
job, not a high salary at all. But both of them together were able to buy a house, you know. I think in that generation, that was probably the best time and maybe the last time that it would be good to have a job, like a 9 to 5 job that you could just go there and just work there and you'll be fine. But now, due to housing prices and the cost of living everywhere else rising, I just think it's just not attainable for people. So, what do you think about that? Like about boomers having the a generation? Was their generation easy? I don't know.
Uh, Here's the thing in putting this in the context. So like my grandmother had 8 children,
Yeah.
and yeah, and she and my granddad could put them to school and on a single like one single parent kind of income.
Hmm.
So what has changed? That's the question, right? Like,
Hmm.
are we so much better off than where we were before that we had to sacrifice that kind of like potential? You see kids nowadays talking about it. How much will they have to earn before they get to own a house? So in Singapore, once upon a time, if you came here to work, $1,500 would have gotten you a very decent master bedroom.
Hmm.
And but again, putting that into context, if in almost any other country, 1,500 Singapore dollars just in our that's more than most people earn per month in Malaysia, for example. But then now after the recent spike of inflation and I can talk more technically about that later on. But after COVID, after the giant super liquidity pump that was pushed into the system that caused a huge transfer of wealth across the board. Now you kind of have to go close to 3,000 in some places to get a master bedroom. $3,000 a month is no joke in almost any country. I remember seeing a small documentary in Japan. If you're a senior firefighter, uh, a firefighter, like
Yeah.
in a firefighting department, if you're a
Yeah.
senior firefighter in Tokyo, Japan, you're earning just about that, about 3,000 to 4,000 Singapore dollars equivalent per month. And that's like the rent of a master bedroom here in Singapore in an apartment. So and nothing fancy, not talking about like some crazy penthouse, whatever
Yeah.
apartment, but like just a decent one.
Well,
So
yeah,
it's
but
it's a
what I'm saying is here, like, I think the reason this has happened is because of what you said, inflation, but I think globalization is also a factor too. The fact that people can come in from other countries and purchase Singapore property. A lot of people would want to do that with Singapore property because it seems fairly stable, right? Am I right about that?
so the Singapore property market is very specific, just like the Hong Kong property market. The it is accessible to global, not just people, normal people globally, but giant institutions can, in their own way, find their way to put money here in Singapore property market. Because of our very specific situation, being such a landlocked place, being this small country that has basically finite land, that you know exactly how much land there is. It's not going to go be able to grow by much, no matter how much the government tries to like reclaim land in the sea. We're
Yeah,
kind of stuck. So you're in a situation where the supply is so locked, and but at the same time, the demand for the stability of Singapore is so high. It
correct.
made sense. Yeah, it made sense for so much money to come in. And sadly, as a Singaporean, you kind of have to deal with what happens to prices in general when that happens. So in Singapore, we have two types of, in general, we have two types of housing: private and government subsidized. So if you're an international person, you're not allowed to put money in the government subsidized housing. So by right, that should mean that the government subsidized housing isn't as affected by this. But unfortunately, it's not the case. I mean, that's
Really?
that's the dream. Yeah. So
Wow.
if private housing is moving up at a certain pace and inflating at a certain pace, there is no way that the government subsidized housing doesn't follow suit, because there are certain mechanisms that allow, like, the so if like demand for um private housing is so high and you can't afford it, it bleeds over into the government subsidized, because you can still rent, in a way you can still rent your government subsidized house to foreigners.
I see.
So yeah, so in total, the total system output is, you'll just see housing prices go crazy. So something very curious that happened, which is a bit hard to explain, is that after COVID, the government subsidized housing actually increased more than private housing. But
Mm.
yeah, um, in in general, this is a very 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 significant thing, that it costs so much to own a house that more and more people have no other choice but to just barely make rent, and then just to pay rent. And it's very different from the boomer generation, where you could own a house and raise kids
Mm.
and just with one single parent income. So the
Yes.
stress and everything is quite a bit different.
Yes, and I think there's many reasons for that, and we've got into it, and it's such a the whole idea of housing has been such a hot topic, and I want to be optimistic about housing, and this is the other topic that I want to talk to you about. So in the future, I believe, and Elon Musk believes that a potential future for AI is hyperabundance, right? Hyperabundance of everything. So if you want, say, a phone, you could just 3D print it, for example. Everyone has a 3D printer and they just fabricate everything they need. And so we have a complete hyperabundance, right? I think once they automate building houses, right? This is talking very futuristic. If there was a, I think the physical labor that it costs to build a house will go down over time. Do you believe
Mhm.
that, right? Would you believe that,
Um,
firstly?
okay, so that's a bit of a dream scenario, that it's a bit Star Trekky, and
Yes.
it's not that it's impossible, because I mean, think about it. Like, um, I'm not that young. Uh, I'm old enough that when I was young, we had comic books that talked about having devices on your wrist that allow you to
Mm,
communicate with people, and here we are. You know,
yeah.
so yeah, it's a possibility in the future, but the there's this very large block that we sort of, as humanity itself has to go past without sort of like imploding on itself before we can reach to something like that. Here, like here's the critical thing, and Elon Musk would agree. One of the greatest resources that we probably don't have enough of to be able to generate this kind of dream scenario is energy. And energy, being able to harness, harvest, generate electricity, and just energy in general, to be able to do things at the level that would achieve this kind of dream scenario, we're not there yet. um and that one is a very complex topic to go through about, yeah. But
Yeah.
without that, a lot of things are near impossible. So even the whole concept of like a fully electrified grid and so on and so forth, it's actually like electrified transportation grid. um the, the biggest problem still stems from energy, and be able to distribute energy and capture energy and use energy accordingly. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
gonna
I think
be
I think that's totally true. I think that that's totally true. And if you go back to maybe the 1990s, you remember battery technology in the 1990s was like AAA batteries. Like you just put them
that's correct.
inside the Game Boy, right? Now we have batteries like this in an iPhone that have
Yep.
so much more power. They're rechargeable and everything. And it's natural to
Yep.
think that that technology is just going to um keep getting better and better. But what I'm saying is, maybe to
Mhm.
be more specific about what I'm saying is, physical labor, right?
Uh-huh.
Things like farming, things like picking up, laying bricks, right? To put on a house is something that will be automated. I think you can say that without
Yeah.
like if if we
It's
assume humanity is not going to explode and die and we're all going to die, right? That is going to happen. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, that's a tidal wave that's coming in that is near. Yeah,
Yes.
it's
Humanoid robots.
yeah.
Okay.
More than just humanoid. Okay, so people are kind of like comfortable with things that look humanoid, I guess, to some extent, but it can be anything. It's just very good robotics at cheap costs, and
Yes.
very capable computing systems running on some level of artificial intelligence will make a lot of these things a lot easier. Like, but again, my thing still comes back to power all of this, to power this kind of economy, requires a tremendous amount of energy. And it's not just about battery tech, it's actually being able to generate the energy. And that part becomes a very big political hot topic, and so on and so forth. But yeah, if we manage to cross that cavern of
Yeah.
being able to have enough energy, then so so much about economics is about scarcity of very critical resources. So at the end of the day, the number one thing that's the greatest resource that the human race and anything can have is energy. Food is a form of energy, after all. It's just
Mm.
the one that we can consume. Yeah.
Mm.
So if we can answer that equation, then everything else, then you no longer have scarcity. Then the grand idea of something like universal basic income, or whatever, everything being free, becomes a possibility. If you
Mm.
have infinite energy to build your machines, to run your whatever, to recycle materials, to build houses, to um,
Yeah. If all that
in-
system is automated, yeah, then yes. But what I'm saying
you
is,
can.
okay, you seem very fixated on energy, right? There are places in the world, right? This is from what I understand as a BTC maxi. There are places in
Yeah,
the world where energy is cheaper due to geographic location, next to a hydroelectric dam, for example, or
yeah,
in Texas, like solar panel. There are places in the world where there's cheaper electricity. And
yeah.
so to say like, yes, power is limited, I understand that, but um yeah, like I just think it's possible, right? I truly believe that human beings are going to automate away physical labor, and it will happen. It might happen in our lifetime. That's just
Oh
what I
yeah.
believe, right?
I
And
mean,
when that yeah.
Amazon houses.
Yeah,
They're the
exactly,
they're the
precisely. And look at those capsule houses that you get from China for like $15,000, right? I was
yeah.
looking at those recently, right? You get them shipped for 15,000
Mhm.
US dollars, and those are the houses of the future, and those houses can be put together by 4 people in a day, right? They come shipped, and then you just open them up and you do that, right? And I just think that's
Mhm.
so futuristic to me. That makes so much sense. And I think, I know we're getting a bit political, but I think that governments should probably just be pumping those houses out like crazy, right? Drop the rents like crazy. That's what I think you should be doing, because people can't afford housing. They just can't. Like, that's the reality. And if the supply of housing just goes up like crazy, then the rents would naturally go down, right? But the issue is, and this is
Mhm.
talking to the property market in Australia, the issue is the people who are in power own property. There's a conflict of interest, and they
Yeah.
don't want to flood the housing market. So there's so much regulation about building in Australia. Yeah.
So, one of the reasons why I'm pretty specific to the focus of energy is because it's something that's globally prominent. Why? But I'll get into that maybe later or another day if we have time.
Yep.
But yeah, specific to this solution of housing prices, right? So it definitely makes a lot of sense in a country that has way, Australia is a very specifically interesting property market. You guys have tremendous amount of spare capacity land. it, of all countries in the world, to have a housing bubble that has gone so far, Australia is the most interesting place that just semi doesn't make sense. You have land,
Indeed.
you have material resources. You know what I mean?
I
You,
know
you
exactly what you mean. I know exactly, of course.
you're a mining country. You're a country that mines shit and has
I know.
so
We
much.
mine iron. We mine some of the most iron in the world, yet stainless steel price is higher here. That doesn't make sense.
Australia. So as you mentioned, this is
What's
a political
happening?
hot topic. Yeah, it's a political hot topic. It's exactly that. There has to be some reason those in power are making it so difficult to manage this. It doesn't make sense whatsoever that it's not otherwise. Because
I know.
for Singapore, it's a bit explainable. We're stuck. We only have this amount of land,
Hmm.
and the demand for coming into Singapore is so high. Because unlike Australia, and this is another thing, Australia doesn't have like some sort of intrinsic international demand for your land. You guys are far too fucking far away from anything to be the number one place to go to open a port or whatever not. It's a very powerful country for a lot of reasons, but the distance and it's that there's very little sense towards the property bubble in Australia. It's something that I've never looked like too
Yeah,
deeply
there's
into.
there's very little sense if you take out corruption. Like, if you just
Right.
say it is corrupt, it makes perfect sense. The people
If you
who own the land are making the laws and saying, literally saying, like, "Oh, can I build here?" Someone asked, "Can I build here?" Eh, nah, nah. Like, this is a massive block of land. Can I put some apartments on here? Eh, because there's zoning laws. So you say, if you're zone 2, for example, you can't put apartments. Why? I just said so. Like, I just said so. So you can't. So yeah, it's yeah. Anyway, uh,
yeah,
but I want to be
it's,
positive. I
it's
want to be positive though, because I want to be positive. So, and there's also a lot of taxes on landowners and stuff like that. But anyway, I want to be positive. So about this AI hyperabundance, you talk about energy. What I wanted to say about humanoid robots, you said humanoid robots are good because people are comfortable with them, right?
yeah,
But I actually think that humanoid robots fit perfectly into what jobs humans are doing right now. So that's why I say humanoid robots. I'm saying it for a functional reason. I'm not just saying because it's comfortable for me to look at, like iRobot. Like, they fit perfectly into the systems that we've already built, like truck driving is a bad example, but like stacking shelves, you know,
mm. Working
farming,
kitchen,
things like that.
working in a kitchen
Yeah,
using the items
precisely.
that we use, yeah, in the kitchen. And well, they don't get tired, and they probably won't give you attitude at 4 a.m. in the morning if you like go there and ask for your McDonald pancakes.
Right.
So yeah, there's a lot to look forward to in that slightly
Mm. I want
sci-fi
what I
future.
want. This is what I want, right? And I think everybody wants this. I want food to be hyper abundant. I want every single food production, right, to be at the point where it's running 24/7 and just giving enough food for everyone, because I know I'm oversimplifying it, but this is how my brain works. If every single person in the world has 10 Big Mac meals a day, right? Every single day, right? 10 Big Mac, you can't eat 10 Big Mac meals in a day. There
Oh,
is a thing in my
I can
mind that creates an abundance of food for everyone in the world. That is possible. I have to believe that's possible.
Yeah, the economics of it is where things get a bit tricky. Um, and that would require me sitting down and like drawing some stuff out, but it's not impossible.
Yeah.
Theoretically, it's not really that impossible. Just like the housing thing, it's not impossible.
Well, housing
It's
is definitely possible. You can provide housing for everyone. If,
yeah,
especially like if all you needed was a roof and or like four walls and a roof and like yeah, you could just you do the capsule housing for everyone. Surely. I mean,
for
it
sure.
has to be. I have to believe that it's possible. As humans, we can't just we want to make the world better, right? Or you could just believe that no, there's supposed to be the ruling class and everyone else is supposed to live in squalor, homeless or whatever, right? You could believe that, but I don't believe that. I think through technology we can create a lot more we can raise the standard of living for every single human being. I think that's
Yeah.
possible.
Yes, it's to be honest, actually quite possible. The question being is that for those who are already in power, is there any incentive for them to allow that to happen? Unfortunately, so
Yeah.
that's where you have to sort of like negotiate your way through to make things work. So that's the complicated and more tricky part. Okay, so again, forgive me for being a bit like dogmatic about this energy thing, but it's the same. We could make a lot of nuclear power plants. We should have made a lot of nuclear power plants for a very long time. Technically and historically, they've proven to be very, very safe, especially in certain places. When I was in Beijing, like sometime like 2 years ago, as you fly over Beijing, you see so many I could see nuclear power plants down there just functioning, and
Hmm.
they have enough land area where you could put a nuclear power plant so far away, and it's enough that you can lower the cost of energy. If we had gone down this path, for example, whatever you believe in terms of nuclear, but you could have reduced energy costs to next to zero, and that's a big part of inflation. Because energy cost goes into everything, and that including building your buildings and including
Yeah,
running your
exactly.
machines. Yeah. So yeah, so it's about political will, I guess, part of it,
Hmm.
and how to appease those who already have a stake in the game. So if your lobbyists and all the people who support your political agenda have a lot of property, they don't want you to make a lot more property to reduce your value, don't they?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So
of course. But let's talk about this topic of power because this is a really interesting topic. Have you read 48 Laws of Power, the Robert Greene book?
Robert Greene.
48
I
Laws of
I read
Power.
I read it some time back, but
Okay. So one
just
of the things he says in there is that power is constantly fluid, right?
mm,
People can hold it, but just by nature of holding power, you're going to have other people trying to take it 24/7. You're never going to
yes,
be safe, right?
yeah,
From people trying to take away your power. So power is constantly shifting, right?
yes,
I think this is just my opinion. This is one friend saying to another friend. I think you
mhm,
might be being a bit too fatalistic about power. I know you're saying like, oh, these guys are in power and we have to appease them just to get things done. Power moves, right?
yeah,
If the living conditions get so bad, historically
yep,
what happens is people revolt,
power, yeah, for sure.
yeah,
So
and then take the power again and then do it. You know.
yeah, I'm aware of that. The thing
Yeah.
is that if you want to structure change now, right, without things going so bad that there's a complete revolution, if you're in politics, you one of the things that you have to do is figure out how to like balance this negotiation. So I have a
Mm.
friend. So in Singapore currently we have two major political parties, the PAP and the Workers' Party. So I have this friend. She will remain unnamed, but she wanted to get. She likes what the Workers' Party thinks and the ideas that they have, but she knows that they don't have enough power to get things done the way she would want it to. So she actually joined the PAP so that she can take her ideas there and try to see what she can do to make it work over there.
Mm.
This is just an example of, if you want to get something done now, you do have to understand who is and what is in power, and accept that this is the reality for now, and you have to work with this framework. That's
Mm.
that's the part of it. It given a long enough time, the human race's history has shown that yes, power changes. The sterling pound was the currency of the world. It was the power, and then it moved to the dollar. But before that, I think it was the Spanish era. I can't remember, but yeah.
Mm.
So
It was the
it,
Roman denarius at one point, right
yeah,
back
so
in the
power,
Roman time.
it's in our history. There is no doubt about it. Like
Yeah.
the Americans used to be like, just like their actual, what do you call that? The Is it
Global
right to say
reserve currency.
No, no, no. Way before Christopher Columbus came to America, and then it turned into its own global power. It was just land with Aboriginal tribes, sort of,
Yeah.
right?
Native
So yeah,
American. Yeah.
yeah, the Native Americans, and then slowly over time that thing rose to power and then became a great power. Japan used to be an ultimate powerhouse of manufacturing, and then it lost that title to China. So
Mm.
yes, power changes for sure. There is no
Absolutely.
doubt about it.
And
Yeah.
and and I think I love that you brought up Japan and China because they lost that it potentially to a meritocracy, if that makes sense, right? So Japan was making the best stuff. They won
Yep.
that title from
Yep.
being the best. And then
Yes.
China took it with cheaper products, right?
Mm.
And that kind of global free market, in my opinion, is the antidote or one of the antidotes to this political corruption. At the end of the day, if the politician's saying you can't have a house, in order to build the house you need to do this, 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 this. Okay, $15,000 capsule house from China. It's
Yeah.
like what? Wait, so I'm charging you like 300,000 to make this house, and in taxes and fees or whatever, and you just got 15,000 from China. Then you see what I'm saying? Like that is an antidote to political power.
Oh,
Technological advancement is that. This is my view.
yeah. I don't disagree.
Yeah.
The globalization, access to global markets, cheaper labor, etc., has
Mm.
been a pain in the ass for those in power who want to keep control tight. It has been, and that has not been a thoroughly bad thing, lah. It is something that they then have to contend with, and yeah, so it helps. It definitely does help.
Yes.
And so, yes, it's all these factors combined. But my thing is that for it to happen quickly, if you want it to happen now, then you do have to either be very capable of completely disrupting a system without causing complete chaos or breakdown of whatever the system is, or you have to, in some
Play the
ways,
game.
understand how to negotiate. Yeah, play the game. You have to negotiate with those who currently are in power to slowly find a way, sort of like a win-win, something like being able to explain to them like, hey, look, you either do this now and still maintain some level of power, or you wait for everything to implode and you lose everything. So yeah, that's it's gonna be a thing, but
Mm.
it'll be interesting to see how it goes about. I am definitely all for seeing more advanced technology come into play, because okay, so here's I probably have to go soon, but I'll leave
Yeah, yeah,
this
all good,
podcast.
all good. Anytime you want to leave. Yeah.
I'll leave this podcast at this note. So one of the things you learn in economics, and it's not talked about enough, but actual wealth generation, actual income generation, or income growth of a society, a country, or the globe, in sum of everything, can only happen in one of two ways. Either you increase population, because an increasing population increases the capacity for production, and increasing production, it means you increase actual things in the market and actual value, because new things are actually created. Without new things created, you don't actually have value. You're just exchanging the same thing. So it's one of the reasons why when you say fiat inflation kind of doesn't make sense, because the total number of the actual value of goods remains the same, but the price of the currency increases. That's inflation.
Mm.
So it's either increase in population, you actually have demographic growth, or technology increases. It's only these two things. It's a population growth or technological like progress. So we are obviously having a global issue with population growth, and this is why all those who know about this are talking about whether the technological progress can come in and make up for the deficit, because technological process is when you use less people to make more goods,
Yes.
and in a simple way of explaining it, yeah.
Yes.
So
Precisely.
uh, yeah, so since we're in a situation where we look like we're about to go into some sort of technological singularity, as they call it, where the movement or the output of technology is about to go exponential. Yeah, this might be the thing to see. I've been talking about this for quite a while now.
Mm.
This technological singularity, but again, the technological singularity cannot happen without enough energy. All those machines, all those server farms, all those cloud computing, everything requires significant amount of energy, not just to run them, but to be able to cool them, to manage a lot of things. So yeah, this is a space to watch. I hope it works out. I hope, yeah, being hopeful. I hope the human race, continues to be the little cockroaches that we are, and never give up
Yeah.
and keep going.
That's the human
Yeah.
spirit.
Yeah,
All
I,
right.
I would love to see where it goes.
Let's talk.
All right.
Let's talk anytime. Thank you so much
Uh,
for doing this.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. Have a
All right.
good day, man.
Yeah. Talk
Okay.
anytime. See ya.
See you. See you.